Okay, so this lesson that we're going to do today is, so we did solving inequalities, right? With addition and subtraction, you do those just like you solve with addition and subtraction in an equation, but now there's an inequality symbol, okay? The beautiful thing about today is the same goes for multiplication. You're still multiplying both sides by the same thing like we did with equations, okay? However, with the inequality symbol, now that symbol might flip at times, and we need to know when do you flip it and when do you not, okay? So here's your first example. When you multiply by a positive number, okay, if we're multiplying by a positive number, you're gonna do it just like you did when we were solving equations. So like if I have x divided by 3 is less than -2, okay? Essentially what you're doing is you're thinking of it as this. X divided by 3 equals -2. How do you solve that equation? You multiply by 3 on both sides, right? We multiply by 3 to cancel this out, and then we multiply by 3, and we get x equals -6, okay? But we're not doing equations today. We're doing inequalities. So you're not technically doing this, but you're doing the same thing, okay? So we're gonna multiply by 3 on both sides. This cancels, and you get x, your symbol stays the same, is less than -6, okay? And that's your answer. And then if they ask you to graph it, you would put your number at -6. Is that going to be an open or closed dot? That's open. Okay, and then which direction does my arrow go? You need to go left, right? Whatever direction it's pointing if your variable is first. So we're going to shade that way. Okay, so do this one for me. If I give you x divided by, it's all there. You can see the whole thing right now. X divided by 4 is greater than or equal to 5. Okay, x divided by 4 is greater than or equal to 5. What are you doing on both sides? Multiplying by what? You're going to multiply by 4 on both sides. So you're going to go multiply by 4 here, which is going to cancel that out. Multiply by 4 here, and you get x is greater than or equal to 20. Okay? Now here's what I want you to see. In that first example, there was a negative number there, right? But we multiplied on both sides by what kind of number? Ryan, will you put your iPad away? By positive, right? No, away, not on your desk. So we multiplied by a positive on both sides. We didn't change anything. We just solved it like we would an equation, right? Okay. But there was a negative there, and it got us a negative answer. That's fine. Don't change a thing. But the second type of problem is different than that. And this is the type of problem that can sometimes give a little bit of confusion for people. And that's when you multiply by a negative. Okay, that does not mean one side of the equation has a negative. That means you are multiplying on both sides by a negative number. Okay, so if I do something like this, -3/4 times w is greater than or equal to 3. Okay. What happens is when you multiply by a negative, it totally changes when you multiply both sides by a negative, it totally changes your inequality, okay? So like if I wanted to solve this equation right now, or this inequality right now, what do I multiply by on both sides? You could do 4. There's a quicker one. Do you remember? You multiply by the reciprocal, right? To get rid of it. So what we're going to multiply by is the reciprocal, still negative, okay? So I'm going to multiply this side by -4/3. which means I need to multiply this side by -4/3, okay? Well, -4/4 is -1. -3/3 is -1, and -1 times -1 is 1, right? So I'm left with just W over here, okay? On the other side, this is like 3/1. 3 and 3 cancel each other out, and we're left with what number? -4. Okay, but now here's the thing that people forget about and then get the wrong answer on. When you multiply both sides by a negative number, so a negative number and a negative number, when both sides get multiplied by a negative, you have to, and here's what we say, flip it and rip it, okay? So you're going to flip your symbol around. No, this isn't the flip it and rip it one. Move it and lose it. No, that's different. Forget the saying. There's not a saying with this one. I'm thinking of a different one. What you're going to do, though, is you're going to flip your symbol, okay? So you're going to take what was greater than or equal to, and now you're going to make it less than or equal to. Okay, so W has to be less than or equal to -4. Jayla. If you want to do it in 2 steps? Yeah, so if we took it as -3/4 times W is greater than or equal to 3, if we multiply both sides by 4, then I would get -3W, right, because these cancel, is greater than or equal to 12, right? And then I would have to divide by a -3, and when I divide both sides by a negative, then W is greater than or equal to a -4. You have to take that symbol and flip it over. So you don't even have to put it in there to begin with. You just flip it over. So it would be W is less than or equal to -4. So if you want to break it into 2 steps like that, you totally can. Multiply by the 4 and then divide by the...
Wait, so you only flip it when it's a negative?
You only flip it if you divide or multiply both sides by a negative number. Okay? Okay, so what would this be? If I give you a -x/3 is less than 7. Okay, what do I need to multiply both sides by? Ryan, you with me? Be with me. What do I need to multiply both sides by? You could do 3, but then you have a negative there still, right? We want to get rid of the negative. So we're going to multiply by a -3 because -3 over -3 cancels out. So you multiply by a -3 over here. And here's my suggestion to you. When you do it, forget about everything else and write the symbol first. Because if you forget that you multiplied by a negative and you forget to flip your symbol, you're messing up the whole answer, right? So I flip it over. I'm left with x on the left. I'm left with -21 on the right. So that would be my answer. And if I graphed that, I'd have a -21. Is that an open or closed dot? Open dot. And what direction do I go? To the right. Okay. Let's do another one of those. If I give you x divided by -2 is greater than or equal to 16. Okay, what am I multiplying both sides by? By -2, right? You're going to get that negative out of there. So multiply by -2 and multiply by -2. What's that going to do to this symbol? Flip it over. So you're going to get less than or equal to. This cancels, so you're left with x. Over here you have -32. So x is less than or equal to -32. Okay? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put 12 problems on the board right now. Some of them are going to be positives. Some of them are going to be negatives. And you need to decide. Every one of you is going to come up and try a problem. People aren't going to be watching you because they're all going to be working on problems too. So don't worry about other people. But I want you all to try one and see, do I flip it or do I not with this problem? Okay, so